Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield.
Which one is this, John?
This is 77. And we did one last
cool
week, and then we've been off recording for a while. So it is fun and good to be back.
It's great to be back.
We have a little banter lined up for you. A couple of things. One is, Will.
Yes.
You are joining a club that I am a member of that you do not wish to be, but you are.
Is this the shoulder surgery club?
It is. Oh. So by the time this comes out, you're going to be sling man like me.
That's right.
So good luck.
I'm so excited. I'm glad that I'm getting it done to, get better, but the process of going through
it's a haul. It's a haul. And are you learning dictation and stuff like I pointed out to you? Have you started that journey yet? No.
Just barely. Amy and I have been talking about that and utilizing the left hand and other kinds of tools. She was telling me about the chair last night where we were discussing where we're going to put it.
Yeah.
John and Carol, his wife, have been wonderful help. John had this done a year ago, and I'm having a similar. Mine's a little bit more extensive.
I think it is.
But he gave us some great advice on how to care for me. I'll be, like you said, a broken bird. I'll be a baby.
You'll be a broken bird like I was. All right, and then on a cheerier note, by the time this comes out, we will have almost likely have launched our next commercial project. It is called WIP-TNC, like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I try to make that work. It is called The Next Challenge, and we are going to be interviewing business leaders who have a major challenge in their professional life in front of them, and we're going to talk to them about how their leadership traits are going to come into play for that. So that'll be exciting. And I'm looking forward to getting that started. We're going to have a whole media empire by the time this is all done. We won't have any money, but we'll have a media
Who needs that?
empire. So,
Who needs that when you got love?
Exactly. Well, let's light this candle. We haven't said this in a while. I'm John Lane.
I am Will Barfield.
And we are a work in progress. Beautiful to be here. Nice to see you. As always, we have a guest. We have Kate Lewis, and she's a special guest, Will. Do you know how we know that?
Because the slide tells me that.
And what do we know about slides?
They don't lie.
Even if?
The information's wrong.
Correct.
I love that.
On the slide. It's a fact.
That might have been our best one.
Well, you think 77 times.
You think 77 times we will get that. Kate, how are you? Say hi to everybody.
Thank you for having me. And aren't we all a work in progress? I mean,
yes.
No one's perfect. We're all striving for getting better. So thank you for having me.
Anyone who tells you they're not a work in progress is a liar or selling you something. Quote it. What's that movie?
Princess
Bride.
Oh, love that one.
Yeah. All right. So, Kate, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So I'm an entrepreneur for 3 years now, recovering sales professional, which you will see, I think, from my OAD assessment.
Yes, we will.
So enjoying the entrepreneurship journey, a part of 3 growing businesses right now. And the one that brought us together was Intelligence Catalyst, Lead the Flow, when you came in and did the OAD assessments for my 3 partners and I. but I live in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. I've been here 18 years, being a part of, growing IT community here.
Awesome. And you also do some work at AITP where you invited me to be a speaker, which was super fun. Thank you for that. And it was just really funny to watch our worlds come together because Brooke invited me to get into the speaker flow, which went through you. And then I had just met Annabelle. Hi, Annabelle. And then I had just met you through the work situation. And then all three collided together. It was kind of interesting. And I
had worked with Will. I had been a partner at a previous staffing company that I was working at. And helped do some hiring there. So that might predate when John and I were introduced earlier this year, Will, because that was probably 4, 5, 6 years ago now. So
that was Elias, but you did a stint with Craig.
I did, which was even longer ago.
My guy Craig, yeah. In fact, fun fact, one of my clients right now, the internal talent acquisition lead that I'm working with at my client's Tina Cochran.
Which I just ran into at the Starbucks on Page Road by accident yesterday when I was there with a different meeting. So this is how small the worlds are. Our world.
Oh, and in staffing especially so, yeah.
Shout out to all of our friends that we have now announced and messaged. You'll have a lot of people to tag in this post when the podcast goes live.
Tag. I like Tina too. We never met in person, but was she at Dual Boot at one point in her career?
She was.
Yeah, I got to know her there somehow, and then she's done around some cool stuff. So yeah, we should get her on the pod. She's cool. All right, we better get going.
Okay.
So this is when we get to the meat of it. So we use the OAD assessment to provide a fastball coming at you, Will, to provide the content we talk about, which is
leadership traits under stress.
Bam. Exactly right. And we get that from OAD. We picked OAD because why?
Well, I can't spell words with more than 3 letters.
That didn't make the slide, but it's true.
Oh, yeah. Also, highly accurate
and
extremely easy to administer.
Yeah.
It eliminates social desirability distortions, and it's built to the standards of leading international psychology institutions and rating agencies. You see those beautifully displayed across the bottom.
Now, Kate, you may ask, why did he say it was beautifully displayed? Because this is probably the 50th time we've done this bit. One time he was going through that riff, and he said, you may see that by these logos that are littered across the bottom. Ouch.
Work in progress. See, we just have to keep iterating until we get better.
Yeah, I mean, my feelings are pretty delicate, but man, that was rough. So he has been making up for it show after show.
I'm gonna have some more vodka.
Yeah.
My slide arts are never great either. So.
All right.
John does beautiful slide work.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to get deeper. We will be talking at a high level today. We'll use the OAD leadership style matrix. We split people between generalists and specialists. We call that substance, and between socially oriented and technically oriented, we call that communication style or style. I'm pointing to here as a foreshadowing of my blooper. We'll get to that. I am a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant. My pal Will is a
technically oriented generalist, so we share the generalist traits. And I'm a developer in the architect quadrant.
Yeah, which means he's mean and focused.
Very mean.
Is that what OAD says, mean and focused? I'll have to look that up again.
Well, there were other words, but they were bleeped out.
They kind of boiled down to that, yeah. Kate, you are also a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant.
Stunning.
And we're going to reveal this now. Now, one thing I always tell people is the visual aesthetics of the pattern aren't important. Now, I usually tell that to people who have ugly patterns, but Kate, your pattern is just really cool looking.
Clear.
Yeah, and so let me walk you through this, and then Will's going to ask you the killer question. So,
got it.
We are looking here at her relative traits And they're called relative traits, not because they're related, but because we look at them in relationship to each other. So Kate, this is a very cool balanced thing. You are stacked on assertiveness and extroversion, and then your subordinate traits are P for patience and D for detail orientation. Now we look at A versus D to get to a generalist or specialist. You are a generalist supreme. Some people are a mix. That specialist doesn't even live in your neighborhood, right? You are a generalist. Then we look at E and D. E and D tells us if you're socially oriented or tactically oriented. Same thing, 2 zip codes over. You are a socially oriented generalist to the extreme. You're in the builder quadrant, and you're a negotiator like me, but this is an interesting, because of the, I'll say severity. Severity doesn't mean good or bad, but this is as clear as a bell.
That's a spread right there.
Yeah, and then we look at P and A. P and A relationship tells us about whether a person operates with patience or impatience and whether they're comfortable in change. When it's this far apart, Kate is, I want it yesterday. It is
biased for action.
Yes, primed for action. And she's also comfortable with change. And I think that's really helping you. You got 3 companies you're starting up. Mm-hmm. You like us, been jettisoned out of corporate life. And being able to deal with change, I think, is really important. So that's you in a nutshell. Yeah. Will, ask her.
How does it feel, Kate? To have yourself reduced to a 2-dimensional table.
She couldn't even wait for you to finish your question.
Nope, she was ready.
You took a breath. And she filled in.
Lesson learned. I won't breathe when asking her questions on the following slides. There'll be no pause. I like a pregnant pause.
I think it's accurate, right? I guess I chose the right profession to be in sales and entrepreneurship as my career path, right? No one will hire me to be a quality assurance specialist.
Or a tax accountant.
I'm not great with the details, right? But the extroversion is why I think I have so many, balancing and juggling so many companies and interests and organizations that I'm a part of.
Volunteering and all the other stuff that you do.
Yeah. Keep busy. I like to keep a busy schedule. So, the extroversion is on point. The patience is funny. I think there are people that have worked with me that would highly agree with the fact that I may not have a lot of patience. I'm a risk taker. I'm like, let's make a decision. And if it's the wrong decision, that's cool. We'll deal with the consequences and the failures and we can continue to move on. Right. But let's just get something done. Because I kind of get annoyed with the overly analytical counterparts that need all the data first before making the right decision.
Yeah. I am a jump off the cliff and then check my parachute kind of guy. And look at me.
Yeah. Look at John.
Look at me. No, look at me. All right, good. So I love that it pinned you. I love that it's vibing with you, and it was super easy to take. What does it take you, like 5 or 10 minutes to do this?
Yeah,
remember,
it was very easy. I'm a geek. I love these psychology assessments, personality assessments. I think I've collected and done most of them. So
good. Well, we're here to talk about only one, so the other guys can have you on their pod.
That's
all right. So we are going to roll through this section. Will's going to ask you a couple of questions, but we generated with our massive system superpowers and kryptonite based on your specific traits. And we're going to roll them out, then we're going to have a conversation about them.
Yeah, this came out of like a 1985 server room. I mean, it's just those big, huge machines. That's what it took to do this.
Yeah. Computational data. I should have brought a mask.
Printers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A superhero mask or a cape.
So those superpowers there, Kate, John mentioned that these were generated by those enormous machines. So someone who takes the assessment and lands in the quadrant where you did is going to see, similar, very like these. They're generic-ish. But of those, is there one that really stands out to you or that you've heard others comment on that's really accurate for you? Which one of those would you talk a little bit about?
Definitely been referred to as assertive in a positive or condescending way. I think that could be taken both ways.
Depends on who's saying it.
Right. Miss Independence. I can see that. But I like number 2. I like the vibrant, energetic approach to working in a fast-paced environment, frequent changes, shifting priorities, thinking on my feet, adjusting, iterating, continuing to move the ball forward. I feel compelled that that one is good.
Love it.
I think that fits.
Yeah.
Here we are on the other side. Same
I get bored.
question.
Sorry, I get bored easily. So I think that fast-paced, ever-changing is important. Like I couldn't be a factory worker. Yeah.
Distracted by shiny things.
Yes.
Yep.
How about the kryptonite? Which one of these?
Dislikes routine and repetitive tasks. I couldn't be a factory worker. I think I just said it. I must have cheated and skipped ahead. This might not be going fast enough for me. I might have already had to skip ahead in the slides. Oh, and delegation of detailed work. I need someone to do my slides for me or to do the quality assurance check, make sure there's no spelling errors and grammar errors in my presentations and work and stuff. So I think
before we leave that point and before we go to the next slide, there have been periods in your career where you've had to do those slides.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Can you find something about it that you like, or is it misery from moment one? And even though you look at them 30 times, is there still like mistakes that you missed?
So I don't think I look at them 30 times. I think I would just roll with the mistakes. Like I've been at an AITP presentation where there's like a misspelling and a typo, and it's because I chose to get it done and present it. And I'll deal with the, on the fly public humiliation of having a misspelling because I don't look at it 30 times.
Yeah, John talks a lot about how generalists care that work gets done while specialists care how work gets done, right? Oh. So you're definitely in the let's get it done and move on. And if we made a boo-boo, we'll deal with that, but it's in the past.
Yeah. I mean, the boo-boos in my line of work are not life or death situations, really. So that's why I think I'm in the right profession. Again, sales and entrepreneurship and consulting services where no one's life is, I'm not in a medical profession where a bad decision could result in death.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Correct. And so we're on this slide now. You've been through this exercise. You did, your pre-work with John. We've looked at the results in the previous slide for superpowers and kryptonite. You said you enjoy taking these things.
I love it. Yeah.
How do you take what you've gathered and maybe been refreshed on from this exercise with us and apply that successfully to all the different professional things that you have going on? Mm-hmm. I want to hear your answer about how exercises like this make you better. And then I've got one more question for you.
Yeah. So what was interesting in that startup, Intelligence Catalyst startup where John came in and did the OAD assessments for the 4 of us, and we took them, we are all in a different quadrant. So I'm a builder. I think Mike is an architect. Forgive me. Ken, John was a facilitator and Ken was a
expert. Yep.
Expert.
Yep.
And so it shows our different communication styles and strengths and assets of how we add value to the organization, but how complementary we are. And so we can stop and think about how does the other person think or communicate or work at a different pace or style or have a different communication style than maybe I do. And so I think the importance is knowing that, knowing my style, but also knowing the other people that I have to engage with in a leadership capacity at my company, their styles. And so we can put people in the right roles, leveraging their strengths, but also have grace or patience or understanding of why John may be very detail oriented because he's in that bottom quadrant technical specialist, right? And so he may take more time going into a higher level of detail and digging deeper than I, who just wants the cliff notes and the summary.
Right. That's right. When you're working with, especially an expert, a technically oriented specialist, you present something in a meeting and you ask them what you think, and they go, "I don't know what I think. I'm still thinking about it." Like they're not going to start rushing into talking in rough draft. People like you and me, can we talk yet? We're just ready to go. And I don't know if any is good or bad, but if you don't understand the person you're talking to, or
Yes.
you make him sit through, a 10 or 12 page slide deck without any context or any data, you're not going to get anything out of him. So if you can meet him where he is so he can give you the response you need, that's called communication. And that's how we roll.
Well, and some people might need the agenda or the notes or the reading material before the meeting to prepare
100%.
before walking in a meeting, whereas I might walk into a meeting cold and be able to just think and decide on the fly.
Correct.
It may make my counterpart, who's the expert, uncomfortable because he hasn't had the time to review all of those details, right? 100%. Like I don't read the instruction manual when I buy a new appliance. I just plug it in and hit start and only pull out the instruction manual if something goes wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Before we leave, quick question.
Yeah.
So you worked for others for a while, right?
Yeah.
You worked for Enterprise, Liquid Agents, Resolve It, Higher Networks.
You're making me sound old, man. You're going back in the early days.
Years. And I did too. I worked for others before I worked for myself.
Yeah.
Now you work for yourself. How did you know it was time? Was there something that happened at the end of that Eliason, or maybe in the evolution between, some of those jobs through Higher Networks and Eliason that told you it was time? Did entrepreneurship happen to you, or did you make it happen? I'd love for the audience to hear that story real quick.
I made it happen. It was always a thought and an idea in my mind. I always wanted to be in a leadership and decision maker role. And like early in my career, I always was like, what's next? And how do I get promoted? And how do I be a leader? And how do I be a manager? And how do I be a, director? And so it's funny you mentioned Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and that was forever ago, 20 years ago, right? But they have this management training program right out of college. So like I'm a 22-year-old, know nothing with a bachelor's degree, no experience. And they're like, but you could be a branch manager of your own store that rents cars to people in 2 years and makes $60,000. And I'm like, yes, that is what I want. I want to be a manager in 2 years. And where else would a 24-year-old have an opportunity to be a manager in 2 years than in some kind of like management training program like that, unless I went and got an MBA. So I think it was always a desire of mine to be the decision maker. Not necessarily from a position of power, but from a position of influence. I think influence is on my chart, right? Like influence. And so I got there in my career, but I also felt like I was still following marching orders because there were still people above me making the strategic decisions, because I was stuck in mid-level management at a big corporation, and decided to, mid-career, midlife crisis moments that happen to all of us where we reevaluate priorities, I guess. And my father's an entrepreneur and has always been, and is also, John said, unemployable. And I don't think he watches podcasts, so I don't think he'll see this, but he was always an entrepreneur. And I was like, it would be pretty cool if I could control my own destiny and do this on my own and do things my way and not have to get permission from anyone else, right? Like, live with my choices, live with my mistakes, live with my failures, but also hopefully reap the benefits of the hard work that I put in as an entrepreneur. And then I also grew in entrepreneurship because I was a little lonely, because of also solopreneurship is lonely when you're an extrovert.
Yes.
And so then getting into these other businesses with partners where I'm still a seat at the table, but have other people to bounce ideas off of, has also fit very nicely in my professional
with your
career.
high E, you alone with a laptop is not going to produce much.
Right.
Yeah.
And no one's there to do all the detailed work for me unless I hire employees to do all the delegate. There's no one to delegate, right?
Hire employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kate, who's next?
I think it'd be interesting for you to talk to Ken Russell.
Love him.
He's the expert. He's an author. He just came out with a book on thoughtful leadership. He's a different quadrant than the both of you and then me, so it'd be a different type of personality assessment to go through.
Great. We will talk
Love
after the show, and we'll button that up together. Thank you so much. That's a great who's next nom, as we say.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're done. Thank you
Great.
so much for being on with us. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time.
Yes,
we
very
appreciate
much.
your partnership. We know we're going to do some work with you soon. I don't know when soon is, but that day will come, and we look forward to that. I'm John Lane.
I am Will Barfield, sir.
We are all, say it with us, a work in progress.
Work in progress.
That's
Thank
right.
you, Kate.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Great
all.
show.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it, Kate.
Thank
Work
you.
in Progress is a podcast presentation of Slipshod Productions. Available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Executive produced and starring John Lane and Will Barfield. Talent booking, production, and editing by John Lane. Thanks for watching. See you next week.